When we talk about why women choose to be intimate with men, one of the most misunderstood truths is that it is not always about the physical act itself. In fact, for many women, the decision is deeply connected to something far greater, something invisible yet powerful: emotional fulfillment. While men may often associate intimacy with physical satisfaction, women are far more likely to see it as a bridge, a channel, a doorway into connection. It becomes less about the body and more about the feeling, less about desire and more about meaning. And this is where the hidden layers of female psychology begin to unfold. Think about it this way: at the very core of human nature, every person longs to be seen, understood, and appreciated. For many women, intimacy becomes one of the ways that longing is answered. It's not the act itself that carries weight, but the emotions tied to it. When a woman decides to give herself to a man, she is often seeking not just touch, but tenderness. She is looking for a feeling of safety that goes beyond words. She wants to feel that in that moment, she matters, she is chosen, she is enough. This is why a woman may turn away from a man who offers her everything materially but fails to connect emotionally. He may buy gifts, provide stability, or show off his success, but if he does not create an emotional space where she feels acknowledged, she will not open up fully. On the other hand, a man who can listen, who can notice the subtle changes in her mood, who can make her feel that she is more than just an option, this is the man who awakens her heart. And once her heart is awakened, intimacy follows as a natural extension, not as a mechanical action. It's important to realize that for many women, intimacy is communication. It is a language spoken not in words, but in gestures, presence, and energy. When she feels emotionally neglected, she may withdraw from intimacy even if she loves the man. But when she feels deeply seen, when she feels valued beyond the surface, intimacy becomes an expression of trust. It becomes her way of saying, "I feel safe with you. I feel understood by you." This is why emotional fulfillment often outweighs physical attraction. A woman might be with someone who is not the most handsome man in the room, but if he knows how to make her feel important, if he knows how to touch her heart, she will give him a part of herself that others could never reach. Now, here's where the psychology goes deeper. Many women are not even consciously aware that this is what drives them. They may say they were simply the mood or caught up in the moment, but underneath, it is the craving for emotional nourishment that leads the way. If she feels ignored in her daily life, if she feels invisible in her relationships, if she feels as though nobody really understands her struggles, then when a man enters her life who listens without judgment, who gives her attention without distraction, she will naturally gravitate toward him. It is not about lust in those moments. It is about fulfillment. This explains why affairs and unexpected relationships often form not out of overwhelming physical desire, but out of a hunger to feel emotionally alive again. A woman who feels emotionally starved in her marriage may not be searching for another body. She may be searching for someone who makes her feel heard, appreciated, wanted, and important. The act of intimacy becomes a symbol of that emotional exchange. She gives herself physically because she is receiving something emotionally that she desperately needs. Men often misunderstand this dynamic because they are conditioned to separate intimacy from emotion. For many men, physical closeness can exist without deeper connection. But for women, the two are intertwined. The body follows the heart. The physical act follows the emotional connection. And even in situations where it seems like a casual choice, when you peel back the layers, you will often find that the woman was seeking emotional fulfillment, whether it was love, comfort, validation, or a sense of belonging. The fascinating thing is that this emotional fulfillment doesn't always come in grand gestures. It could be something as small as a man remembering her favorite song, looking into her eyes when she speaks, or simply asking how her day went and truly caring about the answer. These little acts accumulate in her subconscious, building trust, building affection, and eventually opening the door to intimacy. What looks like a small detail to the outside world may carry a huge emotional weight for her. It's also worth noting that emotional fulfillment is not only about positive feelings. Sometimes women are drawn into intimacy because of the way a man taps into their vulnerability. A moment of sadness, a deep conversation, a late-night confession. These create openings where a woman feels emotionally exposed. If in that moment a man shows care, if he steps in as a source of comfort, she may feel drawn to him in a way she didn't expect. The emotional fulfillment here comes from soothing, from reassurance, from the sense that she is not alone in her struggles. And so intimacy becomes less about desire and more about remedy. It becomes a healing act, a way to calm an inner ache. A woman may not even plan it, But the emotional intensity of feeling understood, of feeling supported, overpowers her logical reasoning. She surrenders not to the man, but to the feeling he brings her. In that sense, intimacy is a mirror, reflecting not just the man's presence, but her own unspoken needs. Do you want me to expand this even further to push it closer to 700 words, with more real, life-styled scenarios and psychological depth? There is a hidden truth that often goes unnoticed in the conversations about intimacy and relationships. Women carry within them a deep desire to feel significant. It is not always about love, it is not always about attraction, and it is not always about pleasure. At the heart of many choices a woman makes, including the decision to be intimate with a man, lies this subtle but powerful drive to feel special, chosen, and irreplaceable. When she engages with a man physically, it can be less about the act itself and more about what that act represents. The confirmation that she matters, that she stands apart from the rest, that in that moment she is the center of his attention and not just one more face in the crowd. Human beings in general crave importance, but for women, this need is deeply tied to the way they view relationships. A woman can move through her day giving and giving, taking care of responsibilities, meeting expectations, and showing up for others, but often she feels overlooked in return. She may feel like another voice in the noise, another name on a list, another part of the routine. So when a man enters her life who makes her feel significant, who treats her as if she is not just important, but essential, she responds. Intimacy becomes the language through which she holds onto that feeling, the way she cements the idea that she is more than just an option. Significance is not about flattery or empty compliments. It is about authenticity. A woman can tell when a man is simply saying what she wants to hear, but when she senses that a man genuinely sees her uniqueness, her quirks, her strengths, her struggles, she begins to feel a shift inside. She begins to feel alive, valued, wanted. And in that emotional current, intimacy may follow because she is not simply giving her body, she is responding to the recognition of her worth. This is why some women end up drawn to men who pay them attention, even when those men may not be the most compatible partners. A woman who feels invisible in her relationship may be vulnerable to the advances of someone who notices her laughter, her ideas, her silence. To the outside world, people may wonder why she would risk so much for what seems like so little. But inside her, the act is tied to significance. She feels acknowledged in a way she has not felt before, and that acknowledgement becomes intoxicating. When a man makes a woman feel like she is the only one, like she is chosen above all others, she experiences a surge of importance that can cloud logic and reason. It is not always about whether she loves him or whether he is perfect for her long term. It is about the fact that he made her feel significant in a world that often makes her feel replaceable. That sense of being chosen can be so powerful that it overrides doubts, fears, and sometimes even her own better judgment. There is also a competitive aspect hidden in this psychology. Women, just like men, have egos. Being the one he desires, being the one he turns to, being the one he cannot resist, feeds into that need for validation. It confirms that she has something no one else does. And in that space, intimacy becomes more than closeness. It becomes proof. Proof that she matters. Proof that she is different. Proof that she is valued above all others, even if just for a fleeting moment. This explains why gestures of attention carry more weight than many men realize. A look that lingers, a thoughtful message, a comment that shows he was paying attention. These tiny signals accumulate, creating a narrative in her mind that she holds a special place. When she believes she is significant in his world, she opens up emotionally, and that emotional openness often paves the way to physical closeness. At the same time, the need for significance can stem from deeper wounds. A woman who has felt dismissed or overlooked in her past may crave validation in her present. The man who provides it becomes more than a partner. He becomes a mirror reflecting her worth back to her. She may seek intimacy not only to feel desired, but to quiet the fear of being ordinary, overlooked, or forgotten. The bedroom, in this sense, becomes a stage where she confirms her place in his heart, even if only temporarily. Men often underestimate how powerful this hidden reason is. They may assume that attraction alone is enough, that physical chemistry explains everything. But chemistry without significance is fragile. A woman might enjoy a man's charm or his looks, but if he fails to make her feel truly important, if he fails to make her feel like she is the only one in his world, the connection will eventually weaken. On the other hand, even if a man is not the most attractive or accomplished, if he knows how to create that aura of significance around a woman, he holds her attention in a way others cannot. The drive to feel significant is not superficial, It is rooted in the psychology of value and belonging. Every woman wants to know that her presence makes a difference, that her absence would be noticed, that she is not easily replaceable. When intimacy happens under this motivation, it is not about lust, but about reassurance. It reassures her that she holds power in his world, that she is cherished, that she is chosen. And in the complex layers of female psychology, this reassurance can be more compelling than love itself. Curiosity is one of the most underestimated forces in human behavior. And when it comes to women and intimacy, curiosity often plays a far greater role than most people realize. While society tends to paint women as always being motivated by deep emotional connection or long-term commitment, the truth is that many women are also driven by a natural desire for exploration, for adventure, for experiencing something new that awakens a part of them they may not have felt before. It is not always about love or even about attraction in the conventional sense. Sometimes it is simply about the thrill of discovering the unknown, testing boundaries, and answering questions that lie quietly in the corners of her mind. For many women, curiosity is tied to self-discovery. Intimacy becomes more than a physical act. It becomes a way of exploring herself, her desires, her boundaries, and her own power. A woman might ask herself, what would it feel like to be with someone completely different from what I'm used to? What would it be like to surrender in this way? What would I learn about myself if I allowed this experience to happen? These questions can be subtle, sometimes even unspoken, yet they push her toward experiences that satisfy the hunger for novelty. She may not always plan it, but the pull of curiosity has a way of taking over, of nudging her past hesitation and into action. This drive for exploration is especially strong when a woman feels her life has become routine. Predictability can sometimes dull her spirit, and the allure of something unfamiliar reignites excitement. A man who represents a different lifestyle, a different culture, or a different kind of energy can trigger this sense of adventure. It is not necessarily about him as a person, but about what he symbolizes. Possibility, variety, a glimpse into another world. The intimacy that follows becomes a journey into that world, a chance to experience life through new sensations, new dynamics, and new perspectives. Psychologically, curiosity creates a spark because it engages the unknown. The unknown carries both risk and reward, and that tension is intoxicating. For women who feel trapped in predictability, the unknown becomes irresistible. It whispers promises of freedom, excitement, and transformation. When she follows that whisper, she may find herself in situations she never imagined, not because she calculated every detail, but because she allowed curiosity to lead her. The intimacy is not just about being with a man, but about answering the question, what if? There is also a rebellious side to curiosity. Women who have been told what they should or should not do often feel the urge to push against those limits. The act of being with a man out of curiosity can be a form of breaking rules, of claiming independence, of showing herself that she is not confined by expectations. She may not be looking for a long-term partner, but she is looking for freedom, the freedom to experience, to explore, to take what life offers without apology. Intimacy, in this sense, becomes an act of defiance, a declaration that she is in control of her choices and her body. At times, curiosity is sparked not by boredom or rebellion, but by the magnetic pull of novelty. A man who carries mystery, who does not reveal everything at once, who has layers she cannot immediately read, can stir her imagination. She begins to wonder what it would be like to know him more deeply, to see the sides of him that others do not. That wondering builds tension, and that tension can culminate in intimacy. She is not only curious about him, but also about how she will feel in his presence, how different the experience will be compared to what she has known before. It is also worth noting that curiosity is not always conscious. Many women may not fully realize that curiosity is guiding their choices. They may explain their decisions as being caught up in the moment, or not knowing why it happened. But beneath those words lies the spark of exploration. Their subconscious was pushing them to try, to step outside the familiar, to taste something that would answer the questions lingering in their mind. Sometimes curiosity is tied to growth. A woman may sense that intimacy with a certain man will teach her something about her confidence, about her boundaries, about her ability to connect. She may seek the experience not for the man himself, but for what the journey reveals within her. This makes curiosity a deeply personal motivator, one that is less about external validation and more about inner exploration. She is not simply with him, she is with herself, testing her own edges, seeing how far she can go, and learning what she is capable of feeling. In other moments, curiosity shows up as a desire for contrast. A woman who has been with gentle men may find herself drawn to someone bold, someone commanding, just to see how it feels. A woman who has lived within strict boundaries may choose someone wild or unpredictable, not because she believes he is her future, but because she wants to taste the contrast. The act becomes an experiment, a way to expand her range of experiences and to see herself reflected in a new kind of dynamic. The reality is that curiosity often overrides logic. A woman might know that a particular man is not a good long-term choice. She might be aware that the situation carries risks, and yet curiosity can be stronger than caution. It whispers to her that the experience itself is worth it, that even if it doesn't lead anywhere, it will leave her with something new, something unforgettable. In this way, curiosity becomes one of the hidden reasons women sleep with men, not out of need, not out of emptiness, but out of the undeniable pull to explore, to experience, and to expand her world. There are times when a woman's choice to be intimate with a man is not born out of love, not even out of desire, but out of an attempt to fill a void that she cannot put into words. When life feels heavy, when loneliness becomes unbearable, when disappointment cuts deeper than expected, intimacy can appear as an escape. It is not the man himself who is the focus, but the relief that the moment promises. For some women, sleeping with a man becomes a temporary refuge from emotional emptiness, a way to silence the noise of pain, or at least to distract themselves from it. What looks like attraction on the outside may actually be survival on the inside. Every person at some point in their life carries unspoken wounds. For women, these wounds often stem from feeling unseen, unloved, or unworthy. In such moments, the idea of intimacy transforms into something more than just connection. It becomes medicine. She may not even recognize that she is using it this way, but deep down, her decision is an attempt to soothe the ache in her heart. When she feels overlooked in her daily life, when she carries the weight of rejection, or when she has been starved of affection for too long, being with a man can create a fleeting sense of wholeness. It tricks her mind into believing that the emptiness has been filled, at least for a while. The psychology behind this is complex. Emotional pain often seeks quick relief, and the human brain is wired to look for comfort. For women who feel disconnected or neglected, the physical closeness of intimacy offers a powerful illusion of connection. The touch, the closeness, the attention, all of it can feel like proof that she matters, proof that she is desired, proof that she is not invisible. Even if deep down she knows the act will not solve her problems, she surrenders to it because, in that moment, it feels better than the silence of loneliness. In some cases, intimacy becomes a coping mechanism. Just as some people turn to food, alcohol, or distractions when they are hurting, others turn to relationships or physical encounters. It is not always a conscious decision. Sometimes it is instinctive. The brain seeks comfort, and intimacy offers both chemical and emotional relief. Oxytocin, dopamine, and other feel-good chemicals released during closeness can temporarily numb the emotional pain. For a woman carrying heartbreak or emptiness, this chemical high can feel like healing, even though it is only temporary. This hidden reason is often misunderstood by men. They may assume a woman's choice to sleep with them reflects deep attraction or passion, when in truth it may reflect her need to escape her own reality. She may not be in love, she may not even be truly interested, but she seeks comfort in his presence. She wants to forget her pain, to feel held, to feel as though the hole inside her is not swallowing her whole. And in that vulnerable state, the line between desire and desperation can blur. Many women who fall into this pattern often struggle with guilt afterward. They may wake up feeling emptier than before, realizing the act was a temporary fix that could not erase the deeper issue. But in the moment, the pull is too strong. The need to escape is louder than the voice of logic. It is not weakness. It is a very human response to emotional suffering. The body craves closeness when the heart feels broken, and intimacy becomes the easiest way to satisfy that craving. Sometimes this choice is linked to unresolved past trauma. A woman who grew up feeling unloved or unwanted may unconsciously associate physical intimacy with validation. She learns to equate being chosen physically with being valued as a person. So when emotional emptiness rises to the surface, she turns to intimacy as a way of chasing worth. Even though it never fully works, even though it leaves her unsatisfied in the long run, the cycle repeats because the momentary relief feels irresistible. There are also cases where a woman seeks intimacy to escape from stress or pressure. Life may feel overwhelming, responsibilities, failures, disappointments, or a sense of being stuck. The act of being with someone else provides a pause button, a brief getaway from reality. She may not be thinking about the future or the consequences. She is thinking only about the now. And in that now, intimacy becomes a doorway out of her burdens, even if the doorway closes quickly once the moment is over. This hidden reason also explains why women sometimes engage in intimacy with men they don't even feel strongly attracted to. Attraction becomes secondary to the need for comfort. What matters most is that he is there, that he offers a distraction, that he provides a feeling she cannot give herself in that moment. The choice is less about him and more about the escape he represents. She is not surrendering to him as a man, she is surrendering to the promise of relief. In this way, intimacy is often misinterpreted by outsiders as reckless behavior or lack of self-control. But when you look deeper, you realize it is not recklessness, but pain management. It is a woman trying to carry her own emotional burdens in the only way she knows how at that time. It is not about lust. It is not about love. It is about survival, about finding a way to feel alive when emptiness threatens to consume her. Power is one of the most fascinating dynamics in human relationships, and when it comes to intimacy, it plays a role that is often hidden beneath the surface. For some women, the act of sleeping with a man is not just about connection, not just about attraction, and not even about emotional comfort. It is about power. It is about influence, control, and the unspoken ability to shift the balance of a relationship through closeness. While society often talks about intimacy as something purely emotional or purely physical, there is another layer that exists: the pursuit of empowerment. A woman may give herself physically, but what she is truly seeking is a sense of leverage, a way of influencing how the man feels, how he acts, and how much he values her presence in his world. In many ways, power in intimacy is subtle. It does not always show itself as dominance or aggression. Sometimes it is quiet, graceful, almost invisible. A woman may use intimacy as a way of securing her position in a man's life, making herself unforgettable to him, creating a bond that ties him emotionally and physically. She understands that the act of closeness can deepen his attachment, and by choosing when and how to give herself, she holds influence over the direction of the relationship. This influence may not be spoken out loud, but it exists in the background, shaping decisions and emotions. There is a psychological reason behind this. Intimacy, by its nature, creates vulnerability. When a man opens himself up physically and emotionally in those moments, he exposes parts of himself that he may not reveal in any other context. A woman who recognizes this understands that intimacy is not just about pleasure. It is about access to his deeper self. She learns his patterns, his weaknesses, his longings, and in doing so, she gains power. She knows that she can use this closeness to draw him in, to keep him committed, or even to sway his decisions. For some women, this is not a manipulative act, but a survival strategy. In societies where women historically had less visible power, intimacy became one of the few ways they could influence men and through men influence circumstances. That history still lingers in the subconscious. A woman may feel that through intimacy she has a kind of authority that she might not be granted otherwise. When she sees that her presence can soften a man's mood, inspire his loyalty, or make him prioritize her, she understands the weight of the power she holds. There is also the aspect of validation that comes with power. A woman who chooses a man and has him yield to her presence feels a sense of authority over him. She realizes she can alter his emotions, stir his desires, and occupy his thoughts long after the act itself. That ability to influence his inner world gives her a sense of control, even if she never speaks it out loud. She may not be the strongest physically, she may not have the same kind of external power he does, but within the intimate space, she can hold a form of dominance that is undeniable. Sometimes this dynamic plays out in relationships where the woman feels powerless in other areas of her life. If she feels overlooked at work, ignored in her social circles, or undervalued in her family, intimacy becomes a place where she can reclaim control. It becomes her stage, her arena, her moment to remind herself that she does have influence. The act itself may be a way of balancing the scales, of offsetting the helplessness she feels elsewhere with a sense of authority in the relationship. Power and intimacy can also appear in more playful or experimental ways. A woman may enjoy testing how far her influence goes, seeing how deeply she can affect a man's emotions, how quickly she can change his behavior, or how much she can inspire him to chase her. The curiosity of exploring her own power becomes a motivator. She might not even be seeking love or security. She may simply be seeking the satisfaction of knowing that she holds sway over someone else's heart and mind. There is also a competitive element hidden in this psychology. Some women are driven by the desire to prove that they can attract and influence men that others cannot. Being able to command attention and intimacy from someone who is otherwise difficult to win becomes a kind of victory, a demonstration of her own allure and authority. In this way, intimacy becomes less about the connection itself and more about what the connection represents: proof of her power, proof of her ability to stand out, proof of her significance in his life. Another layer of this dynamic is the ability to withhold intimacy. Just as giving it creates influence, withholding it creates power as well. A woman who knows how much a man desires her can choose when to give and when to refuse, and in that choice lies control. The tension, the anticipation, the waiting, it all adds to her influence over him. She understands that intimacy is not just about what happens in the moment, but about how it shapes his emotions before and after. This hidden reason is rarely discussed openly because it challenges the idea that intimacy is purely selfless or purely about connection. Yet, when examined honestly, it is clear that power and influence are often woven into the choices women make. It does not mean that love or attraction are absent, but it does mean that beneath those layers lies another truth: intimacy can be a tool, a strategy, a way of shaping dynamics in subtle but profound ways. When a woman realizes she has the ability to alter a man's emotions, decisions, and loyalty through closeness, she becomes aware of a form of authority that is as real as any external power. There is a dimension of female psychology that is rarely acknowledged openly but runs deeper than conscious thought, and that is the role of biology and subconscious drives in the choices women make around intimacy. While many conversations about why women sleep with men revolve around love, attraction, or emotional needs, there are hidden forces at play that trace back to human evolution. These are not decisions made with logic or planning. They are impulses and instincts rooted in survival, reproduction, and the desire for security. A woman may believe she is acting purely on preference or emotion, but underneath those reasons, biology often whispers its influence, shaping her behavior in ways she may not even recognize. At the core of this hidden layer is the evolutionary drive to seek strength and protection. For thousands of years, survival depended not only on an individual's abilities, but on choosing a mate who could provide safety and stability. This subconscious imprint still exists in the female psyche today. A man who demonstrates confidence, leadership, or the ability to provide can unconsciously trigger attraction, even if the woman cannot explain why she feels drawn to him. She may tell herself that she likes his charm or his humor, but deep inside, her subconscious may be responding to signals that suggest he could offer protection or elevate her sense of security in the world. Another biological influence lies in the instinct for genetic advantage. Women may feel an unexplained pull toward men who display physical health, vitality, or charisma, not because they consciously think about passing on genes, but because evolution has wired their subconscious to respond to these signals. This attraction is not always rational. It may even contradict her conscious desires, pulling her toward men who are exciting but not necessarily stable. Yet the subconscious is not thinking about long-term compatibility. It is reacting to signals of strength, dominance, or genetic fitness that have been encoded into human behavior over generations. There is also a cyclical element to this psychology. Research has shown that women's levels of attraction can shift based on hormonal changes. At certain points in the cycle, a woman may feel a stronger pull toward men who display dominant traits, while at other times she may prioritize emotional safety or nurturing qualities. She may not be aware of why her preferences shift, but her subconscious and her biology are guiding her toward different types of partners depending on what her body perceives as most beneficial at the time. These hidden shifts can lead to decisions that surprise even her, as if she were being guided by something beyond her conscious control. Subconscious drives also influence how women perceive intimacy as a form of bonding. The release of hormones like oxytocin during physical closeness creates attachment, reinforcing the connection with the man. This biological response is not something she chooses. It happens automatically. Even if she enters an encounter with the intention of keeping it casual, her biology may create emotional ties that complicate her intentions. This is why many women find it difficult to separate intimacy from emotion. Their subconscious wiring links the two in a way that cannot be easily undone. Another aspect of these hidden drives is the attraction to novelty and unpredictability. From an evolutionary perspective, exploring different partners may have been a way of increasing genetic diversity. In modern times, this can manifest as curiosity about men who are different from her usual type, or a desire for experiences that push her outside of her comfort zone. She may rationalize it as excitement or adventure, but beneath the surface, her biology may be urging her to expand her range of possibilities. It is also important to recognize that subconscious drives can sometimes lead women to make choices that contradict their conscious values. A woman may logically want stability, loyalty, and a long-term partner, but her subconscious might draw her toward men who are charismatic, unpredictable, or difficult to obtain. The conflict between logic and biology creates tension, and in moments of weakness or emotional vulnerability, biology often wins. She may later question why she acted the way she did, not realizing that her subconscious was guiding her in the background. There are also deeper psychological imprints that come from past experiences. A woman who grew up associating certain traits with safety or love may subconsciously seek those traits in her partners, even if they are not truly healthy. Her body and mind remember patterns, and those patterns influence her choices in ways she may not consciously understand. Intimacy becomes a stage where these subconscious imprints play out, leading her to repeat cycles until she becomes aware of them. The hidden biological and subconscious drives are not about weakness or lack of control. They are about the complexity of human behavior. Women, like men, are shaped by forces far older than modern society, forces that evolved to ensure survival and reproduction. Even in today's world, where women make conscious choices based on values, goals, and personal standards, the whispers of biology remain. These whispers influence who they are drawn to, when they feel that pull, and how deeply intimacy affects them. When a woman chooses to sleep with a man under these hidden influences, it is often less about the surface reasons she gives and more about the subconscious layers that led her there. She may believe it was because of his charm, his words, or the circumstances, but beneath that lies the ancient programming of her biology, the invisible hand of subconscious drives that steer her decisions, even when she is unaware. This is why intimacy is never just a physical act or even just an emotional one. It is also a biological act, tied to instincts, hormones, and subconscious patterns that reach back to the very beginning of human existence.